Well, thank you for joining me, everybody, for the first of our Holy Week video devotions. As we go through this week, concluding on Friday, we are going to be looking at the 7 last words of Christ, these last things Jesus said as he was dying on the cross. Today, we look at the first word, which is given to us from Luke chapter 23, starting at verse 33. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there, along with the criminals, one on his right and the other on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. The people stood watching, and the rulers even sneered at him. They said, "He saved others. Let him save himself, if he is God's Messiah, the chosen one." The soldiers also came up and mocked him. They offered him wine vinegar and said, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was a written notice above him which read, "This is the King of the Jews." You know, the scriptures, they are mercifully scant on the details of the crucifixion. As Luke does here, we are merely told that they crucified Jesus. We're spared, for the most part, the gory details. The gospel writers give just enough details of that to confirm that, yes, this really did happen. And we're given enough information in the Gospels that when we put that with what we know about crucifixion historically, we get a pretty accurate picture of the brutal reality our Lord Jesus endured. We know that nails were hammered through his outstretched hands into the crossbeam. His feet were probably likewise hammered into the vertical axis of the cross. And then after these excruciating events, Jesus would have been hoisted up to hang there, gasping through pain for breath, eventually dying due to asphyxiation and exposure. It was cruel, it was dehumanizing, it was agonizing, and a whole host of other horrifying, terrifying words we could string together. So it's noteworthy that Luke reports that as they crucified Jesus, perhaps as they were actually driving the nails through his hands and feet, Jesus speaks the most amazing words. "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." Father, forgive them. Or forgive them. I mean, it's pretty certain that the men performing the actual crucifixion were not gentle. Brutal is an understatement for how they probably went about doing things. And on top of everything else, we are told that they mocked Jesus as they did these things. And it's not just the crucifixion crew. Luke tells us that the rulers of the people there, the religious leaders who had conspired to have Jesus crucified, they're there as well. And as Jesus is crucified, they too sneer at him, they mock him, seemingly unaware that in doing so they prove in their cruelty that they have shed all visages of humanity. And yet, as these people execute their agonizing death penalty while circling around jeering, Jesus says, "Forgive them." Wow. And in this, I am reminded that forgiving is exactly what Jesus came to do. You see, in dying on the cross, Jesus is doing the necessary work. He's offering himself as a payment for sin to see that all people have access to God's forgiveness, even those at whose hands he now suffers, if they would only receive it. Jesus utters the words, "Forgive them." Even in the most extreme suffering, Jesus never takes his focus off what he came to do, never takes his focus off his love for all people, including you and me. I don't know about you, but when it comes to forgiving, I can have a hard time. Sometimes I have trouble even forgiving my little niece. She accidentally spills my Mountain Dew. Forgiveness is not easy. And yet Jesus here speaks forgiveness over his torturers, his killers, his tormentors. You know what that tells me? It tells me I'm not nearly as good as I think I am. On my best days, I've got a long way to go before I live up to the example set for me by our Lord Jesus on the cross. And it also reminds me that Jesus' forgiveness is for everyone, and I mean everyone, if they would only embrace it. It's for me. It's for you. I know it's for me because I embrace it. I need it. But there are people out there who know they need it too, but they think they've done things so bad that even Jesus could never forgive them for it. But Jesus here, he's forgiving the people who are crucifying him. I could never do that. You see, it's impossible, but Jesus does it. And that tells me that no matter what you've done, you are not beyond the forgiveness of Jesus either. He died on the cross for you because he loves you. Always has. If you're one of those people who has never come to Jesus because you think, well, you've just done the unforgivable, I want to invite you to come to Jesus today for the forgiveness of sins. If he forgives even those who are driving the nails through his hands onto the cross, certainly he will forgive you. He promises it. And he has never broken a promise. And as we close today, I want to ask you to spend some time in meditation with God in prayer. And during that time, I want to ask you to reflect on what it means to you that you are forgiven by Jesus. And think about what it means that others, all others, are offered that same forgiveness by Jesus. And then consider what that should mean about your attitude toward them. God bless you, my friends.